folks, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show, and Cat I recently have begun collaborating with, and I've been enjoying a lot. Got a chance to see him the next couple of nights here at Gold Diggers with Sam Band, and in a myriad of other projects. Stewart, Forgey, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Thank you. Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Would you say, what is the fine line? I think because we've been talking before about, a lot of the music you play would be maybe rock, blues-based stuff, singer-songwriter stuff, but with jazz.
Yeah.
What does it require for a musician to be able to play jazz?
That's a good question.
Project your voice a little bit, too.
I think it's a really good question. Jazz is basically just an extension of pop music and blues music and several other types of music. And I think to be able to play jazz, first of all, you should be able to play those styles, pop and jazz and blues, and that's like the basis of jazz, really. And it's kind of a combination of those two, it really is at its core like song-based. I would say jazz, is kind of song-based, and it's very melody-driven. And especially a lot of the old classic jazz standards and the jazz songs they all have incredible melodies, and a lot of them have incredible lyrics. And
Well, that's my question, because you say pop music, right? So back in 70 years ago, jazz was popular music. So
right.
For a long time, the standard for being a jazzer was having knowing a big bag of popular tunes. But there's got to be a fine line. There's got to be some kind of line, because then everybody would be able to play.
Well, it's a matter of your interest and your taste too, if that's what you want to play. If you want to play jazz, I think to really, really play jazz, you need to be able to play those styles that I mentioned, but you also need to be able to dig really deep into the study of different harmonies and musical theory concepts, and how to play them and translate them to whatever instrument that is that you're playing. And to really play it takes a lot of time to dig into, because jazz, like I said, is an extension of those styles, so it's taking those styles and digging really deep into the chords in between the chords, and the rhythms in between the rhythms that are happening in the simpler styles, and it makes it into a more complex form of music, really.
Polyrhythmic music, but
sure, polyrhythmic,
yeah.
And the harmonic content is really deep, you're getting into all these substitution chords and different chords that wouldn't really work they work in popular music, but and even a lot of them. Then that's why I say pop music, because even some Beatles songs you could be like, whoa, that's a jazz.
No, absolutely. And the Meters,
song,
George Porter, when they first started, they were playing Stephen Stills tunes, but they were turning them upside down and inside out. That was kind of the thing, is that when you talk about learning these substitutions or learning these a little more sophisticated chord patterns for Stewart Forgey, I often wonder, are you up in Ventura hitting the books, or do you learn that on the bandstand?
First of all, I would not call myself.
You're not. No one's saying McLaughlin. We're not talking. But listen, there are murmurs of a like a jazz trio kind of thing.
I've definitely studied a lot of jazz, and I've been interested in a lot of jazz, listened to a lot of jazz, and I have definitely gone into the books and deciphered chord patterns and changes and voicings and melodies and how the melodies fit over the chord changes, and literally looked at the specific notes and the specific chords and how everything's coming together and the rhythms and all that. I've done a lot of that throughout my life, and I think all jazz players have, really. And again, I'm not really a real jazz player, but
okay. Now, let me ask you though, because in your mind, we have this conversation in a few years, and you're like, what's the fine line between a real jazzer? Is it just knowing is it knowing the songbook? Is it being able to leave the head of the tune? And what makes a real jazz? Because that word
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's not a hard line to that point, you know. But I think a lot of it is the vocabulary of your playing, and the way that you the sound that you create, and the way that you play chords and notes over other chords. You know, it's a vocabulary. You know?
Sure.
And I mean, you know, when you get into these complex harmonic structures and chord patterns, you know, you can play one note over each chord and follow the chords, or you can break outside of that and you can play these cool, intricate lines over the chord changes that are you're pulling it from different places, and it's like you have to be a really quick thinker to do it, you know, but
almost not even thinking either.
But the thing is, I think that to get to that point, you have to study it so hard, break it down to such a microscopic level,
Wow.
and study it so intensely and intricately that you are thinking initially, but once you get comfortable with it, after years, it takes years and years to get to that point, then you're not thinking at all, you know, and then you're going off pure emotion and
soul,
instinct
grit.
and
Yeah,
soul.
I love it.
And instinct, you know, the instinct comes from the years of kind of grueling work. I mean, that's what it takes to be a jazz player like that, and you know.
And you've never played a Stone Jazz gig, but that doesn't mean you're not.
I have played some. Yeah.
You want to talk a little bit? Can you talk about those experiences? I mean, how have they been?
Yeah.
Or like maybe the most satisfying one? Or?
I'm not sure exactly.
I mean, I'd love to
what
see
that
Forgey
would be.
play, you know, jazz trio.
I mean, I really do like playing jazz music with, you know, jazz bands with jazz players, and I mean, the one that I'm thinking of, you know, we didn't practice, you know, we just like kind of threw out what tunes we were gonna do, and I had a real book there, and
right.
we just kind of followed what was on the paper in a way. I mean, the lead sheets, and then, you know, everyone solos and you break out a little bit, but you're always going through the form. You know, a lot of those jazz gigs are kind of like that, I think, where everyone just follows the lead sheets and follows the form. But stuff that I really like too is the stuff where it's a real band. You know, they're breaking out of the form. It's intricate arrangements. You know, and
they never play the same song the same way once. It's not some formula.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, jazz is definitely like that. You know, they don't have written out solos, which I love too. You know, but they don't. Yeah, the song's never the same twice, which is cool. You know, and a lot of, you know, even like jazz or blues or rock music, jam music is kind of like that in a way too. But I don't think with like jam music necessarily, from what I've heard, that vocabulary is not quite the same as like what jazz really is. And some people do get into that, you know, like they get into the jazz and stuff in the jam world. But in general, that jazz vocabulary is just like something that it's really hard to get to that point, you know. And I wouldn't say I'm at that point. I've been trying to get to that point for a while, and I don't think I've put in the work. But you know, I can fake it a little bit. And
right, McDougall says the same thing. He's like, I'm a faux jazzer. And I'm always trying to figure out, because when I listen to McDougall, it's
well,
like,
if he's a faux, then I don't even know what I am.
well, I mean, so I'm still. It's a question I'll continue to poke around about.
I've kind of talked to him about it before, though. Also, actually, about
what does he say?
It's like me, you know. I mean, Adam's incredible. I wish I could be like Adam by the time I die, you know. But
El Mac.
Yeah, but you know, I think in terms of getting to that vocabulary, that point, I've talked to him about. He hasn't really sat there for 8 hours a day for like years at a time, or you know, to really get to that point. Which jazz people do. They'll sit in the practice room for 8 hours a day for years, you know.
Now, I mean, to be clear, Joe Sample showed up at Wes Montgomery's house well into his career, and he was working on some tune. I think it was called Caravan.
Yeah, that's classic.
And Joe said, "Well, how did you choose that chord?" And Wes said, "I have no idea." And he goes, "How about that chord?" He goes, "I have no idea." He goes, "You mean to tell me you don't even know what the chord?" So I mean, like, it seems to me like there's like this.
Writing is a whole other thing, because writing I don't think requires you to sit in a room for hours and hours, you know, because writing is just. That's your taste.
All I'm saying is he was just playing by ear.
And
I mean,
also, you know, I do think that it's not all about just sitting in the practice room for hours and hours. definitely it's just your taste, you know. And some people can probably pick up jazz really quickly and understand it and play it, and some people it takes
Right.
longer, you know. And that's just music in general. But you know, it's with writing music, it's always just a personal whatever's coming out of you. It doesn't require yours to channel what your natural taste is, you know. It can take years to develop it, but you know, when it comes to writing, it's not the same as as shedding a whole language of music, you know. Because I feel like I could write in the jazz style because I
Yeah.
I know how to do it. But when it comes to doing it on like in real time and playing through all the changes and doing like some bebop, fast tempo stuff like that, like I could analyze it and be like, I know what's going on here, and I could I could learn it, you know, if it takes me a while and all that. But to just be able to get up there and be like, bam, we're doing a super fast bebop tune with these changes going all over the place, kill it, you know. That takes a lot of time to really get that to be second nature, so that you don't have to think about it, you know. I'm not at that point. I have to think about it slowly.
I think we just came, because McDougal said to me in our interview, after a CRB show one night, a couple of buddies from Tony Leone and Jeff Hill from back in the Hard School of Music days, they were having a bebop gig across the street. They said, come over and jam. Mac went over, they all went over there, Neely, all the cats, to watch them play, and they picked up on those up-tempo bebop tunes like that. And he realized, he's like, wow, that's what they were meant to, you know, like that was the fine line. You know? It was like just falling right into it. But after years of of really just like steady woodshedding. But before I let you go, how are you going to be inclusive? I mean, you guys are such a heartwarming group of cats anyway.
Thanks.
But you're playing with a cat tonight you just met yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about, to younger cats especially, or just people in general, about including someone who obviously has a great foundation, but making them feel like part of the group, even though you don't really have that trust yet?
Yeah, I mean,
I want to see your eyes.
I think it's a two-way street when it comes to that.
Talk about that.
For me personally, and I think for everyone in this band, the Sam Band, everyone's very open to new people, playing with new people, new influences within music and different sounds, and everyone's super open. They want to know, oh yeah, what's the next, like, you have some awesome thing to bring to the table, that's amazing, and let's hear it, you know. And so we're super open to that, and he has been really receptive on the other end. Like I said, it's a two-way street to come in and bring in whatever it is that he has to offer. So, you know, it doesn't always work that way.
Kind of have to meet halfway, kind of.
Well, totally, you know, and you know, it just, and he's been super nice and open to playing, you know, the songs, and haven't really had to even tell him much what to do, and he just, you know, kind of gets it.
Yeah.
You know, which is,
I asked him, I said,
cool.
you got any, I'm like, you just playing by feel tonight? He's like, yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of jazz players are like that, and I think he's kind of a jazz player,
man.
you know, and so yeah, it's great, you know, it's cool, and it's not that hard, you know. It's just, if somebody's a nice person and they're fun to be around and play with, then it's like it's super easy to bring people in, and you know, at least with this group, because everyone's open to it, you know. And if they're hard to work with or be around, then it might be a little bit different story. It's hard for us to then be on the other end and be, you know, like trying to pull something or trying to, you know, communicate, and so it just has to go, we're open, and we're just an open book, and it's just like,
I love it.
you know.
Hey, you know, just as much as it lends itself to improvisation and jazz tonight, the tunes, go for it tonight for Jake Feinberg. Stewart Forgey, always a pleasure to be with you, man. Thank you for everything.
Thanks.
The Jake Feinberg Show. See you later.